All righty, it is October 23rd. We are week seven, our seventh Thursday class together. We have four students on. There's seven total in our class, which means we're missing three students. And we're recording this for their edification and edumacation and education. And so we are on lessons 29 and 30 today. Does anybody have any questions about the previous material? It is actually going to be a little bit tougher today. And so that is, I mentioned earlier in class, maybe the first month or so, the first 4 or 5 weeks, and the first dozen to 15 lessons. I said lots of review, things you probably already understand, things you probably already know how to do. And I told you, make sure you enjoy this because right around Thanksgiving is what I said. It'll get a little tougher. Now, we're not quite to Thanksgiving yet, but today is going to be a little bit tougher. So I want you to make sure you hone in, stay focused. If there's something you don't quite understand, make sure you let me know. But also, it's important for just follow the steps. Sometimes, even if you don't fully understand something, well, I don't understand why this is how it is, but I'm just going to follow the steps to get the correct answer. And then maybe later you get that light bulb moment where it all makes sense. Okay. And so let me switch over to the whiteboard as well so that we can. All right. Learn a thing or two. So, lesson 29, there's only four questions, and those four questions have two parts to them. And so, let me get a drink of my coffee. And so, it's important for us to get all these right. So, there's actually eight total with four questions, two parts to each question. There's eight answers you'll have for these word problems here. And then on the reverse page, we'll have another eight. So eight and eight for normally there's 10. So fewer questions this time, but they are a little tougher. So let's do this. I will read number one, and then maybe in a bit, I'll see if somebody wants to read number two or number three along the way. Put your audio on. I'll do number one though. Excuse me. Parker is saving money for an emergency fund. After saving for a few months, he now has $1,000 in a bank account that pays 6 1/4% interest per year in yearly interest. Okay, so this is something people will mention to me, Mr. Soto, when will I ever use this stuff in real life? And you'd be surprised how much you use math in everyday life. And depending on what career you use, if you're in construction, you'll use math and fractions and adding fractions, subtracting fractions, multiplying fractions. You'll use those a lot. You'll use formulas in any of the sciences. If you're in any engineering, you'll be using formulas all the time. And in if you're in nursing or any medical field, there's sometimes you have to allocate medicine for different body weights. And if a person weighs 140 pounds versus 250 pounds, you got to make sure you get the medicine right. And one person could weigh twice as much as somebody else very easily and even beyond that. So you might have to do, and you might say, well, Mr. Soto, aren't there like programs that do that? Sure, we understand that there are, just like we have calculators today. But it is important for you to learn how it works and why it works in case, something happened and you needed to actually figure out these things on your own. And with money, with savings, with having a savings account or having, as you get older, you'll have maybe retirement accounts. So you'll have some type of investment accounts and you'll have investments in different stocks. And those things all take mathematical formulas to calculate how much money you're going to make. This is very simple. As a matter of fact, I would imagine that at least one, maybe two of you have a savings account right now, and your savings account is earning you interest. Interest is the money the bank is going to pay you to use your money. So if you take $1,000 and you put it in the bank, they're going to pay you a little bit of that money. They're going to take your $1,000 and loan it to somebody else, and they're going to charge them a little bit more than they're paying you. So the bank is basically using your money to make their money. So if all of us put $1,000 into the bank, and let's say there's five of us, that's $5,000, and they pay us a total together of $100 in a year for that $5,000, $20 each, let's say, and then they take that $5,000 and loan it to a person buying a car, and that person buying the car pays them back a little extra. Let's say they pay them back $250 more. Well, they made 150. If they pay us back 100 and they get 250, and so they end up making $150. So took our money, paid us 100 for it, got 250 total, so they made a profit. That's how it works. That's how a bank works. I mean, that's kind of a very uh, minimum definition, but it is one of the ways that a bank makes money, and by loaning the money that we give. So the incentive for us is this: we make a little bit of money on our money. So we put it in the bank. It's also safer there. We also are less likely to spend it. And we also have access to it with an ATM card and such. And so that's all. So Parker here has $1,000. He is making 6.25% interest. So we have to take the 6.25 and turn it into a decimal. So let's go ahead, and we already did that on Tuesday. So the 1/4, we should know this. You should know this right now. And if you don't, then I would ask you to just learn it right now. And 1/4 is actually 25%. So I take the 1, put it here, 4 goes into 10 two times, that's 8. You bring the 2, you add another 0, 4 goes into 25. 4 goes into 25 times, 5 times 4 is 20. There's your 0.25. So 6.25% is actually 6.25%. Okay, that's the first step. So we turned his percentage of interest as a fraction into a percentage with a decimal. Now, second step is to turn it into a full decimal, meaning dropping the percent. And this is something we already learned, so I'm going to go a little quicker over it. But this percentage sign means there's 2 zeros. We're going to move the decimal 2 times, so it's 0.0625. So I've taken 6.25% and just rewrote it as 6.25% this way, and then I make the percentage a full decimal as 0.0625. Okay. So far, do you understand that? Thumbs up or thumbs down on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3, go. All right. Now we're just going to multiply this 6.0625. Now remember, I taught you this already as well. It's a reminder. Anytime you multiply something, in your mind, you think it's getting larger, right? So if you take $10 and you multiply it by 2, you have $20. Okay. If you have $10 and you multiply it by 10, you have $100. Okay. If you have $10 and you multiply it by 1, anytime you multiply something by 1, it remains itself, which means it doesn't change, right? But here's the counterintuitive thought. If you multiply by less than 1, you're actually going to be getting smaller. Okay? Now notice this right here is less than 1. Because anytime you have a decimal, you're less than 1. So you're going to take your 1,000, you're multiplying it by an amount that's less than 1. Okay, so let me show you one thing really quick. I want to give myself some room. I'll use that 10 because that's an even number. 10 times 2 equals 20. 10 times 1 equals 10. 10 times 0 equals 0. Okay. Now let's take a value and put it in between 0 and 1. Let's just say 10 times 0.5, because 0.5 is basically half of 1, right? 10 times 0.5 is going to be 5, because watch. 10 times 5, 0.5, 5 times 0 is 0, 5 times 1 is 5, so 50, but we have one decimal point right there, right? From here to here is 1. So let's move that like that. So it's 5.0, which is just 5. And here, let me show you one more thing as well, give you a little more room. 10 divided by 2, 2 goes into 10 5 times. So 10 times 0.5 is the same as 10 divided by 2. Either way, you're saying you're cutting something in half. Dividing it by 2 or multiplying it by a half, you get the same exact answer. That's all free for you because I wanted you to know this. Let me erase all this and I'll go back to the other part that we did here. Erase, 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 erase. See, it's Mr. Soto's job to teach you things. Okay, so now we're going to do this. Now, the curriculum actually does this. They told you to multiply 1,000 by 0.625. All right. And they say 5 times 0 is 0, and 0, 0, 0, 5. Then you put a 0 here. Then you go 0, 0, 0, 2. But I think that is not the smartest way to do this. Matter of fact, I think it's smarter to put the 1,000 on the bottom in this instant because, watch, these zeros just drop down and it's 5, 2, 6, because 1 times 5 is 5, 1 times 2 is 2, 1 times 6 is 6. And then you have 1, 2, 3, 4 spots. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I multiply my decimal that I created in 2 steps by 1,000, which is a very easy number to multiply by, I gather. And my answer is $62.50. Okay. So my first answer is 62.50. Now, we oftentimes, it's 62.50000, whatever that was. Okay. Now, you might say, well, Mr. Soto, wouldn't we just go 62.5? And you certainly could, except when you're thinking of money, they oftentimes will add that extra zero there just for place value's sake because it's $62.50. So Parker in 1 year has made $62.50. So the answer to number 1, part 1 is $62.50. Let me read what it says for part 1. It says, how much will Parker have earned in interest 1 year from now? He'll have earned $62.50. Cool. Good job, Parker. You did absolutely nothing except put your money in the bank and you've made $62. Would anybody here like to just make $62 for doing nothing? I remember when I was about 26 years old or 25 years old, I bought this little house and lived in it for a year, then I sold it and I had like $20,000, which is a lot of money for me back then. It still is today, would be actually. And I was going to buy another house, but the house wasn't ready, so I put it in a CD, which is basically like a short-term savings that you can't touch, certificate of deposit. And this has been 20 some years ago, 25 years ago, I guess. And the interest rates were higher back then. And in 6 months, my $20,000 I made over $600. And it was the first time I ever thought to myself, wow, they gave me $600 for doing nothing except putting my money in a CD. This is crazy. And so I've done a few of those things along the way. Your parents probably do those things as well. And it's just being smart with your money. And those are good things for me to teach you as your teacher, because I want to teach you things that you'll use 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now as you become adults. The second part of this question says this. If he leaves his money in and interest in the bank for another year, how much will he earn for the second year? So here's where we get to a little bit of calculation. So watch. We have to say his original amount is $1,000. And this is a little bit overly simplistic because there's a few things that would be a little different if it was actually in a bank, how they compound the interest. But they're going to teach you this very simply, okay? So Parker put $1,000 in the bank. He made 6.25% interest. At the end of 1 year, he actually has made $62.50. giving him a total of $1,062.50 in the bank. And now for the second year, he's going to do it again. So he's going to multiply by the 0.0625 in interest again. Okay. These numbers look really similar to each other, basically because the 1,000 is such an even round number. It's not always going to look like that. So now, for time's sake, I'm not going to multiply all that out. I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to take the 1,062. If I could push the right buttons, that would help. Okay. So what I did is this. I'm look at my calculator. See above the larger number, it says 1062.50 times 0.0625. The amount is 66.406. Okay. So I'm just going to I'm going to write to the hundredth place. It goes on farther. If I turn my calculator this way, it'd probably go even further. Actually, it does end there. Okay. So it's 66.406. Now, listen, I want you to pay very special and close attention. This is the tens dollars. This is the ones dollars. This is the tenth dollar or the dimes. This is the hundredth of a dollar, which is the pennies. We don't even have a value in our monetary system lower than a penny. So you look to the thousandth place and you say, does this cause this to round up or down? 66.41. Okay. They're going to round this zero here to a one. So the amount of money that Parker made is $66.41. Okay. And again, there's this movie from the 80s, kind of a funny movie, where a guy realizes he works for this large bank and he realizes that all these half pennies are unaccounted for, and he collects all these fractional parts of a penny from millions of people's accounts, and he makes a bunch of money doing that, and he buys himself all kinds of stuff. Because if it was your money, watch, either round up or round down, he would just round all those down and take that fractional part instead of rounding up in the movie. And so it's only a penny that you don't see. If you saw your bank statement that said $66.40 or $66.41, that would be irrelevant to you because you wouldn't even think about that, right? And so, but he did that to everybody's account, and he got millions and millions of people. So he had millions and millions of pennies from their accounts, and he made hundreds of thousands of dollars doing that. So, but that's just, again, so Parker in the second year made $66.41. So the first year, look, his money hasn't changed. The first year they paid him $62.50. The second year they made $66. It just shows you that your money can make money. Okay. A real life example. Okay. Now, that being said, I want you to try number 2, and then we're going to go to the next lesson. I'll help you with it. Okay. I'm going to help you. Let me read it for you, and then I'm going to give you the opportunity to try it. It says, Gabrielle is saving money to take a trip in the upcoming year. After saving some money, or Gabriel, I'm sorry, not Gabriella. Gabriel is saving money to take a trip this upcoming year. After saving some money, he has $2,200 in a bank account that pays 3.5% interest. The first question, how much will Gabriel have earned in interest 1 year from now? The second question, if he leaves his money and interest in the bank for another year, how much will he earn in interest the second year? Round your answer to the nearest hundredth place. Okay, that's exactly what I did. I want you to try it. So you're going to take the 3.5%. You're going to first change it into a decimal percentage, then a full decimal. So you're going to take the 0.5% and turn it into a decimal. Then you're going to take it and turn it into a full decimal. You can use a calculator if you'd like. You're going to multiply that decimal by the 2200, get an amount. You're going to add that. That'll be the first step. And that'll be your answer to number two, which is number one, and then number two on little two under number one. You'll add it to the original amount, then multiply it again. You use a calculator for all those things. I'm going to give you a minute or two to do this, and then I'm going to do it for you. And then we're going to go on to the next lesson. I do want you to try this, though. I'm going to start working. I want you to try it. Keep your head up. Don't be looking at the screen until you are done. Okay. Good job, Marshall. I saw that Alexis got it. Good job. Very good. Good job, Lindsay. I'll give you a couple more minutes. You don't, I mean, I've already done it on the screen, but I want you to kind of not look at the screen and see if you can do it without Mr. Soto's help. Why do you refer to yourself in the third person, Mr. Soto? I don't know. Only a weirdo does that. Okay. Touche. I am recording this as well. So this will be up on the YouTube channel. If you need any help, you're more than welcome to watch it again. Okay. Let me show you what we got here. So I got the 3.5%. I changed it to 3.5%. Then I change it to 0.035 as a complete decimal. So 3 with a fractional percentage, 3 with a decimal percentage, then a full decimal. I take my 0.035 and I multiply it by 2,200 to get $77. So the answer to part one of question two is $77. I take the $77 and I add it to the $2,200 of the original amount. So now I have $2,277 in the bank. I multiply that value by 0.035. I get 79.695. They've asked me to round it to the nearest hundredth place, which makes perfect sense because we are talking about money, and that's usually how we express money in our everyday terminologies. The hundredth place rounding means I have to go to the thousandth place to see what number that is. This 5 is in the thousandth place. If it's 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4, this number stays the same. If it's 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, this number goes up 1. So the 9 becomes a 0 or 10. I put the 1 there, so 69 becomes 70. For the second part of question two, $79.70. Okay, so I have $77, $79. Okay. All right, let's do this. Take our sheets and turn them over. You can do numbers 3 and 4 on your own. Okay, so this is going to be a little different also. These, like I told you the first 15 lessons, this is very elementary. It's very review oriented. Now we are doing work that is difficult, a little harder. You got to put your thinking cap on. You're working into, high school level math or even junior high school level math. So it's going to be a little tougher. So I need you to hone in and pay attention. It says, what percent, this is number one on lesson 30. Okay. I'm going to structure this for you. Okay. What percent of 30 is 12? Okay. So let me write out the problem. So eventually I need to find a percent. Okay. So here is what I'm going to do. On these problems, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to create a fraction. Okay. After the is your numerator. Before the is your denominator. Okay. I'll say that again. After the is your numerator. Before the is, because is means equals. Okay. And honestly, I'll just tell you something that you're going to learn later on in Algebra 1. Of means multiplication in math. And since you have something on one side of the equals, because is means equals, and something on the other side of equals, you have to use inverse operation. And the inverse of multiplication is division. And division is expressed by a fraction. If you didn't understand what I just said, that's okay. All you really need to know is after the is your numerator, before the is your denominator. Okay? After the is your numerator, before the is denominator. Okay? In a problem like this. Okay? These are the first time in your math career that you're actually taking a word problem with inverse operations. And they don't even expect you to know that now. I just kind of gave that free to you just in case some of you have done some of this type of work. So just all you need to know here is this. What percent of 30 is 12? My first step is to make a fraction. I can then reduce the fraction if it helps me. So let's try it. The greatest common factor of 12 and 30 to me is probably 3. So I'll reduce both by 3. 12 divided by 3 is 4. Oh, actually I can go 6, huh? What have you? I stand corrected. Maybe I should look at this a little more thoroughly. The greatest common factor of 12 and 30 is 6. 12 divided by 6 is 2. 30 divided by 6 is 5. Okay. You say, why would you reduce the fraction? Because we need to turn this fraction into a decimal, then turn the decimal into a percent. So watch our logic. You're all, Mr. Soto, I'm having a brain freeze here. My brain is on fire. I have to create a fraction so I can create a decimal so I can create a percent. I'll say that again. I have to create a fraction so I can create a decimal so I can create a percent. You don't have to turn your audio on, but I want you to say this with me, unless you're in a place you can't talk. If you're in a place where you shouldn't talk, at least mouth this with me. I have to create a fraction so I can create a decimal so I can create a percent. Let's say it again. I have to create a fraction right here so I can create a decimal, which we're going to do in 1 second, so I can create a percent. Now watch how much easier it is to do 2 over 5 as opposed to 12 over 30. I put the 2 in here. 2 goes into, or 5 goes into 2, it doesn't, so we add a 0. 5 goes into 24 times. All right, zero point 0.4. Now, all I have to do to create a percent is when we went from a percent to a decimal, we moved it to the left, didn't we? Whoop, whoop. We're going from a decimal to a percent to the right. 1, 2. So our answer to number one is 40%. Look at all those steps. How much fun is that? 40% is our answer. Okay. Let me step you through it again. Oh, by the way, 12 over 30, we'd also get 4. Watch. But how much easier is 2 over 5 to divide to get zero point 0.4 as 12 over 30? Gonna get the same answer. We just reduced it to begin with. So let me step you through this again. Again, I told you it's gonna get hard. I have to, the question is this: what percent of 30 is 12? Okay. After the is my numerator, before the is my denominator. I do that to create a fraction. When I create the fraction, I can create a decimal. When I create the decimal, I can create a percentage. And that's what they're asking me. What percent? Okay. What percent of 30 is 12? 12 over 30. I can reduce that to 2 over 5. 2 over 5 as a decimal is 0.4. 0.4 as a percentage. From a decimal to a percent, I go to the right. Because a percent is based upon 100, I have to go 2 spots. There's only 1 spot in 0.4, so I just add another 0, move it over 40%. So what percent of 30 is 12? It's 40%. 12 is 40% of 30, and that makes sense. Okay. Don't do number 2. Do number do number 6. Same exact logic, same exact. I want you to try it. Because number 2 is a little tougher, as is 3, 4, and 5. They're all a little different. They're the same principle, but there's a couple nuanced differences I want to show you. What percent of 40 is 15? Numerator, denominator, reduce your fraction, divide your denominator into your numerator, make a decimal, move your decimal over 2 times, make yourself a percentage. I want you to try this number 6 here, please. You're all Mr. Soto. By the way, I'll also say this. It does get a little easier again. Okay, so if this is really tough for you, I get that. This is the hardest stuff we've done. This might be the hardest stuff you've ever done in math in your life. Okay, there'll be some weeks where we have some much simpler things that we do, and then we'll have a couple weeks where they get harder than this. So we'll ebb and flow. So if this is a little tough for you, just bear with us. Try to just remember the steps. Don't let it intimidate you. Okay. Even if you say, boy, Mr. Stone, I don't fully understand, you tell yourself, okay, even though I don't fully understand, I'm going to follow the steps and I'm going to get an answer. What are the steps? After the is your numerator, before the is your denominator. Write that down if you need to. Okay. Make a fraction, reduce your fraction, make a decimal. Once you get your decimal, move your decimal point 2 times to make a percent. Those are your steps. Okay. All right. A couple people have answers. Let me show you what we're doing here. Okay. Okay. Let's go ahead and reduce this. We know that by 5. Oop, that's not 5. Hold on 1 second. Try to write a 3 there. Numerator, denominator. Numerator, denominator. Reduce. 15 divided by 5 is 3. 40 divided by 5 is 8. 8 doesn't go into 3, but 8 will go into 30. Let's go 3 times. 3 times 8 is 24. Let's go 6. Bring down the 0. 7 times 8 is 56. Got to add one more 0. These are things we've already done. 8 goes into 45 times. So I have 0.375. Now watch. 0.375. I got to move it twice to make it a percentage. 1, 2. So I can do 37.5%. You could also say 37.5%. Either of those answers would be correct. Okay? That's the answer to number 6. Okay? And remember, if you ever need help, I'm always on this Zoom channel 15 minutes early. You can always come on early for one-on-one or one-on-two help. I was there this morning for 15 minutes. I got here at 8:45, and nobody even got on class until Giselle was the first right at 9, then Josh came on, and then Lindsay and Alexis came on right shortly after 9. All right? So if you ever need help, 37.5% is the correct answer. Okay, now let's do this. As if that weren't hard enough, let me show you number 2. You're really going to have to pay attention now. Because you thought 1 and 6 were hard. Let's do this. Let me write this out for you. Okay? I want you to follow my logic very carefully. Here's my numerator. Here's my denominator. 9 over 20, 3/4. Okay. So I have a fraction as a numerator and a fraction as a denominator. Now let me remind you of something that you learned in the 4th grade or the 5th grade, okay? This basically right here, this fraction bar right here, is basically a division sign. So let me rewrite this problem. 9 over 20 divided by 3 over 4. Okay? 9/20, and remember, order matters in division. You got to make sure you put the 9 over 20 first and the 3/4 second, because watch. Remember in the 4th grade or the 5th grade, a fraction divided by the fraction is the same as a fraction multiplied by its reciprocal. How many remember this? You keep, you change, and you flip. Keep, change, flip. How many remember that from 5th grade? Put your thumb up if you do. A fraction divided by a fraction is the same as a fraction multiplied by its reciprocal. Okay? Okay, now what I'm going to do is this. Now I have to multiply, but I can cross reduce here too. 1, 5, 1, 3. 3 times 1 is 3. 5 times 1 is 5. Okay, now I have the fraction. Okay, so I had a lot of steps, right? Now I'm just going to keep on doing these steps that we've learned. 0.6. Now I just go 0.6, add a 0, boom, boom, 60%. That is the correct answer. The correct answer to number 2 is 60%. I'm recording this. You can watch this problem again if you want to. Let me take it to you one more time, though, to make sure you get it. This is the problem. What percent of 3/4 is 9/20? What percent of 3/4 is 9/20? Here's my numerator. Here's my denominator. Okay? 9 over 20 over 3 over 4 is the same as 9 over 20 divided by 3 over 4, which is what we have here. 9 over 20 divided by 3 over 4 should be expressed to solve it as 9 over 20 times 4 over 3, the reciprocal. You flip it. You flip the fraction after the division sign, change the division sign to multiplication. Then you cross reduce 4 and 20 reduced to 1 and 5, 3 and 9 reduced to 1 and 3. 3 times 1 is 3, 5 times 1 is 5. Okay? 3 over 5. Now I have my fraction. So my first part is to create a fraction, and it took me a couple extra steps to create the fraction. Once I create the fraction, I create a decimal. Once I create the decimal, I create a percentage, 60%. Woo! All right, let's do this. Why don't you try number 5? And I'll give you a hint. On number 5, your percentage will be greater than 100%. Because when you compare two items, as I taught you a week ago, you can have greater than 100%. Okay? So your answer will be a value greater than 100%. Don't look at the screen until you're done, but I have the answer circled. And I did all my steps. Good job, Lindsay. Oh, I gleeked accidentally. I drank some coffee and yeah. My students are very, very smart. Good job, everybody. All right. Let me give you a couple hints as well. Okay. Um, so you can finish this. All right. Because we're going to run out of time here. We did number 1. We did number 2. We did number 5. We did number 6. For number 3, it's just going to be after the is, before the is. Okay. A little tougher because watch, you can't reduce this. Take your 2.9 here, add a 0, and it's just, you have to divide that out. Okay. And then make a percentage out of it. So that's number 3. Number 4, it's just going to be 0.8 by 4. So again, you just go 0.8. What that does is this. It makes you already at a decimal to begin with. Okay. Which is fine. That's not, don't worry about that. And then you did 5 and 6 already. For 7 and 8, just take your fraction and keep them proper fractions that they give you, and then turn it into a decimal and turn it into a percentage. And number 7, the word problem. Again, you should reduce that. So far, he's eaten 6 slices of a total of 8. Reduce, decimal, percent. Fraction, reduce, decimal, percent. And the same thing with on both 7 and 8, your numerator, it'll be both 7 and 8 will have proper fractions. Okay. And just reduce the fractions, make your decimal, take your decimal, make it a percent. Okay. So that being said, we're out of time. This will be on the YouTube channel by tomorrow if you need to watch it again. Thank you for doing really well. If you're still struggling a little bit, just remember the steps. Just say, I don't fully understand this, but I'm going to follow the steps. Write down the steps. Like, so after the is my numerator, before the is my denominator. I can create a problem. Okay. Then I divide the numerator inside the division bar by the denominator. I make a decimal. I take my decimal, I move it over 2 times to the right, my decimal point to make a percent. And there's my percent. I just follow the steps. I don't fully understand, but I follow the steps. But we are out of time. And I will see you on Tuesday, bright and early.